Good evening, viewers. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Another episode of Guest with Nazir. We are honored that we have special guest, Mr. Akhtar Hussain, and we'll talk about his life and some professional question. Welcome to our show.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining today. Could you please tell our viewers about your early days and qualifications?
Well, Nazir, I was born in Pakistan long time ago. I did 7 classes in Pakistan. So when I came to this country, I was about 15 years of age, and straight went into the deep end in terms of language problems. I went to a language center for 6 months or so to study. Then I went to a secondary school, was called Hurlfield School, and now it's called Myrtle Springs. And I can remember my early days that it was extremely difficult for me because my spoken language was extremely poor. However, I worked very hard, studied very hard, persevered, and I was very keen to progress. And I did manage to, in those days we called CSEs, and then you had to do O levels and then A levels. I did manage to do my CSEs, stayed in the 6th form a couple of years. Then I had to go to college to do some further education. Then went down to Bournemouth University, studied business studies, and got a degree from the Bournemouth Universities. And then my passion was always to be an accountant. I came into UK in 1975, and I remember my early days. My father, bless his soul, he did ask me. He was a worker in the steel foundry. He said, "Son, you came here for education. What would you like to do?" And I remember one of my brother's friends used to come to our house. He used to always look very smart with a suit and tie on. And I said to Dad, I said, "What does this Uncle Najib do?" He said, "He's studying for an accountancy." And please, Nazir, believe me, from that day onward, the only thing I wanted to do was accountancy. So my schooling, my university, wherever I went, the only thing people asked me, "What do you want to be?" I said, "I want to be an accountant." So this is where the journey started. And obviously I came out of university, got a degree, then worked for a couple of firms, and then obviously moved on. And since 2001, I've got my own practice. And alhamdulillah, it's extremely thriving practice.
And what is your practice called?
It's called AH Accountancy Services. I have 4 members of staff working for me at the moment. And as you know, we had the opening of our 2nd office in Huddersfield, which was on Wednesday. You were a guest at that place as well. And we are hoping that we can move forward and have another office in another town in a very near future. I've got a very dedicated team of a couple of qualified accountants who are working with me, our young lads, that I've actually nurtured them straight from the school days and qualified with my practice, and hopefully they are moving on and they take the Huddersfield office and other offices as well. So basically that's been my life so far, and I'm privileged to be here and privileged to what I've achieved so far.
Looking back in the history, how you see integration, because you have mentioned you moved here in 1975. So how you see integration at that time and nowadays?
To be honest with you, I've never had any problems. I have been very sociable. I'm was a very good badminton player. So while I was in Sheffield, I've had friends from all walks of life. When I went to university, I played badminton, I played tournaments all over the country. Never ever, I personally have had any problems. But I know the times have changed, things have moved on, but I think quite a lot of the time it depends on you as well. My neighbors are fantastic here, lived in other area. I cannot remember with me and my family ever having any difficulties at all. We got involved with every walk of life. Things do happen, there are a lot of issues, but for me, the life is very fast now. In those days, I think it's a lot more serene. You were more family orientated. Everybody was family orientated. I think these days what I do find is just people going after money. Money is everything. They're working all hours God sends them, and obviously these things have come up because a lot of commitments. People have got mortgages. In those days, I remember, we used to live, my father used to tell me there was 20 of them living in one house. Now that, you get married, you're two people, you want your own house. When you have your own house, you have commitments. When you have commitments, you've got to then put a lot of effort into your work, and the work takes over from the community side, or mixing with the people. It's one of those. It comes as a secondary issue as far as the families are concerned.
Thank you. Now we will move forward. Few of questions our viewers have sent to us. Today, I would like to ask about the question about the, first of all, capital gain tax, how it works and when it is applicable, and what are its implications?
Well, basically, capital gains tax is a tax on profit that you make when you sell an asset. So asset could be a house. A car is an asset, but car is not subject to capital gains tax. Asset is that you keep it for a long time. House would be, you might have a work of art, you might have a land that you kept it for a long time. So it is a capital gains tax on the profit that you make on the sale of an asset. And currently the tax rate is 18% if you have a lower rate taxpayer, i.e. your income is around just over £32,000 after your personal allowances, it's 18%. However, if you are fortunate enough to be earning a lot of money and your income is more than that threshold, the capital gain tax is 28% on the profit that you make on the sale. So if you had in a house, you bought it for 100,000, now the house that you live in is a house, the second house that you're renting, and that house, if you sell it and you bought it for 100,000, you sell it for now for 110,000, you make 110,000, is 10,000 is a profit. The first 10,000, or it's 11,000 now, is exempt from tax. Anything above that is taxed at the rates I've just mentioned, 18% or 28%.
What is the position if somebody has a second property, like second house or a shop, and he or she wants to gift to a family member? Still it will be applicable?
Yes, if the gifts between spouses is tax exempt. However, when you start gifting to your son, daughter, everybody, the capital gain tax is applicable, and the value is obviously the market value at the time of the gift. So if you were gifting your house to your family member, not your wife, then the market value at the time of the gift, less the cost when you bought the house, and if it's more than £10,000, then yes, a capital gains tax will be applicable.
Thank you. What is the position if somebody has ownership for a long time? For sake of argument, in scenario A, if A has bought a property in 1980s, and now he or she wants to gift to their son, so if they have owned this property for a long time, will there be any difference?
There used to be in the past. I think recently the capital gains tax law have been made a lot easier, a lot simpler. There were a lot of, in the past, you used to have a taper reliefs. If you had your house for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, there were different rates, very, very, very complicated. And so, but currently, it's a very simple. If you have a property, whether you own it 1 year, 2 or 3 years, the rates are applicable as I explained. But if you had the house for a long time, I think sometimes the problem is, what was the cost of the house when you bought it? So there are some very, don't want to go into this finer details, some complex rules where you can elect to have the cost of the property at a certain date, and then that would then go towards your as a cost, and when you sell the property, then the cost would have been at that particular date. But in terms of the taxation of the capital gains tax, the rules are quite simple now. They've been made very easy.
Thank you very much. What is the position of the corporation tax and how it works in terms of every tax year?
Well, corporation tax is levied on limited companies. So the capital gains tax, as we talked about, is on the assets of the, whether it's an individual, there's a capital gains tax, but limited companies, if they have a capital gains tax, it's taxed slightly differently, it's a corporation tax. So limited companies, those people who run the limited companies, the corporation tax for small companies at the moment is 20%. For larger companies, the rates used to be very high, but they're slowly coming down. And I think next year whether you're a big company or small company, the corporation tax rate is 20%. So it's basically profits of the company. The company that makes a profit, whatever is the net profit, then obviously you do a tax computation where you take into account the allowances on some of the assets the company has, and the resulting taxable profit is taxed at 20%.
So what is the position in terms of company? Because our show is also followed by a lot of entrepreneurs. So when somebody is setting up a company, what kind of taxation they have to keep in mind?
Well, it depends on the size of the company. So the number one is the corporation tax. So the company, when it makes a profit, it'll pay a corporation tax. Number two, if company's turnover is above a threshold of just over £81,000, they need to be registered for value-added tax, VAT. So there's a tax, the VAT is payable. If they employ staff, and the individual director would also be an employee of the company, he'll be drawing a salary from the company. And then, depending on the level of the salary, there is income tax to be deducted from the salary. There is employees' national insurance that comes out of the salary, and employees' NIC the company has to pay. So these are the main, three taxes: the corporation tax, pay-as-you-earn tax, and the VAT. That most entrepreneurs, if they're making profit, they would be looking to manage that while they're running a company.
Thank you. And how you see that new entrepreneur, what are their goals should be, especially for the new businesses in first year and in early stage?
I think it's a good question. The idea is, I've got a lot of young people coming up and starting the company. We sit down, we have a discussion. And obviously it depends on your motive for starting a company. I have a lot of consultants, clients that be working self-employed. Then we recommend them that there's a bit of a tax advantage running it through the limited company. So we advise the clients, so number one, that obviously every penny the company earns, you don't just go and spend it. You must keep some money, put something aside for the tax, and also have some reserves as you're going forward. And obviously invest into the business. And I have several examples of within my own organization where someone started from maybe small turnover, but they're multi-million turnover now. But obviously all they were doing is basically everything they were earning, plowing back into the company, investing it back, taking less in the early stages for their own self, just enough to manage their, the essential costs of the house, but not to chill out. But now that they're at a stage now that, obviously, they can do whatever they want, and some companies are very successful.
You have mentioned that you have also given guidelines to the young professionals, and especially you are also working closely with the local university. How you see as a role as a mentor, especially for the youngsters?
Me personally speaking, it's probably one of the best things that I've done in my life. I remember when I came here, as mentioned earlier, I could hardly speak a word of English. I was lucky enough that I had my brother, and he's able to mentor me. Whenever I had a problem, I used to go and sit down with him and say, Bhaijan, how about this? He will help me. But in those days, the resources were very limited. But I was fortunate enough to have that help. Ever since I opened my practice, my aim was to educate, help, assist as many young people as practically possible. As you already know, that obviously I do been part of the Harlem University mentoring scheme. So what they do is every year or so, if there is any individual person who wants to be an accountant, and they'll obviously refer them to me, and for a year or so, we'll have several meetings, guide them, assist them. Also, with Irshad, Pakistan Muslim Center, the community center, I've tried to find a lot of young people who are, would like to be professional accountants. And obviously, I've got a separate office in my office where we've got 3 computers specifically for young people who are interested, for them to bring them in and say, well, if you want to come a particular day, tell us what day you want to come in. We will give them practical work and also professional advice. We'll sit down with them, one-to-one, give them guidance, encouragement, help them. And alhamdulillah, as mentioned earlier, I've had about 4-5 people qualified our own young people, qualified, chartered certified accountants through Allah's help and mentoring through our firm. Currently, I've got about 3 or 4 people in my practice, which people come from Manchester, Leeds, you name it. People, it's not just, Asian community. I've got a Chinese people from, Afro-Caribbean community. I've had from, the mainstream community as well. People ringing me up and says, we need some help. Could you give us guidance? To date, we've never said no. Anybody rings up and says, subject to time, subject to capacity that we have, we will help and train you. So, to be honest with you, I can't even remember how many people have come through and gone and find professional employment, and the doors are still open.
And how you see the role of a professional organization like yours in charitable projects and community projects?
Absolute must again. I think quite a lot of my success is based on because I did a lot of charity work in early days. I worked for Pakistan Muslim Center for about 7-8 years. Black Community Forum, I was a treasurer for quite a long time. I was also a local school governor. I was also a governor at Sheffield College for a long time. And to be honest with you, not only it helped me to enhance my capacity and my personal way that I see the world, but more importantly, it was networking. That networking enabled me to be successful in my business. I can remember so many of my clients have come through the networking. So-and-so mentioned that, why not go to you? So not only are you doing a good thing for the community, but, you always get a lot more back than you put in. I mean, I can guarantee you with my success, I think I've got more out of it than I put in. I mean, I put in a lot of hard work, but I've got a lot more back. And obviously, I would definitely recommend any individual, all the professionals, please, the most important thing you can do in your life is help and assist young people to be like you, and then to say to me, one of the things I say to people when they leave my practice is, please, all I want you to do is, I've done with you, do one person like the way I've done it with you, do it with one more person that you do, and teach that person. Please just do one person, help the way I've done it to you. So imagine where you're going to go.
Lighting another candle.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now we have for every view for all our guests. So we will always ask quick questions. It's called rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Your favorite food?
My favorite food is, I think it's roti and salan, isn't it? Yes. Nothing special. I'm a simple man.
Your favorite sport?
Badminton. I'm a very good badminton player. Badminton without any doubt.
And favorite place?
Favorite place is Kashmir, my hometown, my home country. I love England. I think it's the best country. But, my heart is always, I love to go back to Kashmir, yes.
Thank you. And any message you want to give our viewers?
Well, obviously, message is very simple. I can learn from my life. I've been here since 1975. And, I treat this country as my own country. I respect everybody. I think it's one of the best countries that you can live in. I honestly feel that. It's given me the opportunity to be what I am. Tremendous resources here. And you need to respect your neighbors. You need to respect your colleagues. You need to respect the environment. And, act in a professional manner. And I think, if you manage our life this way, I don't see any problem, going forward.
Thank you. Viewers, I hope you have enjoyed today's episode. And in coming days, we will invite more professional guests who will talk about the professional questions. If you have any questions, you can email me. My email is shown on your screens. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you in my show.
Thank you very much for your invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you.